Okay, so for the heart, in addition to the words that are on the worksheet, I would recommend you draw this somewhere. We will do the diagram on the back of the worksheet in just a minute. But the heart, as we saw yesterday in Tim and Moby, a simple way of drawing the heart, you can draw your standard shaped heart like this. And then as we talked about yesterday, you have the atria, which is plural of atrium. And those are the two smaller top chambers of the heart. Oops, all my words fell apart. And what do the atria do? The atria do what? They carry blood. Where's the blood coming from? No, in the atria, so everybody should be writing this down. The atria receive the blood from the body or from the lungs. Receive blood from body. Okay. So the atria receive blood from the body or from the lungs. And sometimes if it's receiving it from, well, you'll see. We'll do if it's oxygen rich or oxygen poor. Okay, so those are the atria, plural of atrium. And the atrium of a building, like we talked about, is the entryway. So the atria are the entryway of the heart. And then from the atria, from an atrium, it's going to go to the ventricle. The ventricles are V-shaped. You can kind of see the V shape here. They are the lower muscular chambers that pump blood to the lungs and to the body. And so that on the inside of the heart, here's going to be one ventricle, and here's the other ventricle. And in terms of the blood flow, now, is this the left side or the right side of the heart? This one right here is the right, because it's as if you're looking at somebody. The batter's right, stage right. So this is the right side of the heart. It's going to receive from the body. And we're going to go over this on the next diagram too, but just as a simple diagram, from the body, it goes from the right atrium to the right ventricle. There's a valve right there. And then from the right ventricle, where does it go? No, from the right ventricle it goes, and it kind of comes around the back here, to the lungs. Right. And so then from the lungs, it gets blood and then comes back to the, yes, thank you, left, it gets oxygen, left atrium, left ventricle, and then it goes out to the whole body. And so that's just kind of the basics of what's an atrium and what's a ventricle. So now we can go to this picture. And we'll move to the next picture, and we'll label all the stuff, and we'll follow the pattern, and then we'll be able to repeat that. But I wanted to get this first part kind of on a simple picture, and then we'll go to the next one. So take a minute and make sure you have that much, then we'll go to the next one. All right, so then this diagram you have on the back of the worksheet. There are kind of three things we're going to do here. First, we have all these labels that we're going to put on all of the parts. And then secondly, we are going to trace the blood flow as it goes through the body. So first we label the parts. Just like we did before, we can say this, and I know the lines are kind of strange on your thing. This is the right atrium. This is the right ventricle, and kind of V-shaped. Then left atrium, left ventricle, and those are here, left atrium, left ventricle. And then, aside from that, let's take a look at some of the major blood vessels. The vena cava So when blood is coming, so we've got the body here. I know on your picture it's kind of strange. People are like, what, am I supposed to label the kneecaps? It's just showing you the body. And then this is obviously the lungs. So let's take a quick look at the path of blood. Coming first from the body, we're going to have a big vein called the vena cava. The vena cava is the largest vein. It comes, there's actually two branches of it. One from the upper body and one from the lower body. So the blood flow is going this direction. And it goes to the right atrium. And of course, we talked about, you know, this is a vein because veins carry blood into the heart. The blood we're drawing blue here because it's oxygen poor. It has been all around the body, and it's headed back to the heart. So first it goes to the right atrium, then it goes to the right ventricle. This is a valve here. And then so the atria do not have very much muscle. They're small. They only have to pump from here to here. And then when the right ventricle pumps, it goes through here. And it's a little confusing because it's all kind of right on top of itself, right? It's three-dimensional, so the two halves are not exactly side by side. So there's another valve here. And then it goes to the lungs. Now this is going away from the heart. Is that an artery or a vein? It's an artery because it's going away. This is called the pulmonary artery. Pulmonary means lungs. And so then in the lungs, we're going to have capillaries. So we've got the oxygen poor blood coming into the lungs. And of course, it comes into both of the lungs. And we've got a capillary bed. Capillary beds are where all of the exchange of materials happens. And here, of course, it is at the same time picking up oxygen and dropping off carbon dioxide in the lungs. So then we draw the blood being nice and red. Yes, and so this is now the pulmonary vein because it's going back in to the heart. So the pulmonary vein will come into the left atrium through this valve to the left ventricle. And then, so the left ventricle has to pump to the whole entire body. So the left ventricle has the thickest muscle wall in the heart. It's the biggest chamber because it has the biggest job. And so then with one big squeeze, this goes through kind of behind these other things up into this largest vein, largest artery of the body, which is called the aorta. Okay? The aorta is the largest blood vessel in the body. It's an artery. And it has the thickest wall. It is taking all of the pressure from this big, huge pump that then is going to go to the whole entire body. Now, one of the really unique things about the aorta is it has these three little branches right when it first comes off. And I think there might be one other little one that's going to go and feed the coronary blood vessels. Coronary. But these vessels going off right away are going somewhere really important. Where is it super important for you to get blood? To your brain. And so here, coming off of this, one of these is going to go to your arms, and the other two are going to be the carotid arteries. Ever heard of those? They're right here in your neck. There's the carotid arteries and the jugular vein. And so right off of the aorta, going up to your head. And then it goes back to the body. And of course, you're going to have lots of capillary beds in the body, in your digestive system, picking up nutrients from your stomach, picking up waste from your kidneys, in all of your muscles, dropping off the good stuff and picking up the bad stuff, constantly going through the whole body like this. So that is the general pattern of flow with all of the labels. And in just a minute, we'll start with a blank one, and I'll just trace the path, and then we can just play it so you can see it trace the path. Any questions about this? In general, arteries are deeper and, say, closer to the bone, protected by muscle, than veins are. Veins are closer to the surface. So if you look like in your arms or whatever, what you see is generally veins. Veins have lower blood pressure, right? Because it's gone all the way through the body, coming all the way back. The carotid arteries, you can feel the pulse in your carotid arteries. You can feel it going thump, 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 because it's that close to where it's leaving the heart. So yeah, there is a pretty good blood pressure there. And if they're damaged, yes, you could, bleed from that pretty quickly. The jugular vein is there too. Veins have less blood pressure and it's coming back down from the head. But yes, any artery damage, when you hear about people breaking their femur, breaking that big bone in their leg, there's big femoral artery and vein that goes right along the femur, right after the aorta comes down, and then it branches one down each leg. I can show you on the guy in the back there. And so if you break your leg and damage that, you could bleed to death very quickly. So, talking about compound fractures and things like that, if it damages arteries, that becomes a big problem. Okay, and finally in this loop, we will simply just draw the path of the blood so you can see where it's going. Starting at the body, capillary buds. See, that was supposed to be blue. Blue. Starting at the capillary beds in the body, we've got blue. Through the vena cava, the ascending and descending vena cava comes to the right atrium, then to the right ventricle. The heart goes pump, goes through this valve, goes through the pulmonary artery to the lungs. In the lungs, we have a capillary bed, and the capillary bed is where all of the exchange of things happens. And here in this particular capillary bed, we are going to have oxygen and carbon dioxide exchanging. And so then after that, the blood is going to be nice and bright red, and it's going to come through the pulmonary vein into the left atrium, the left ventricle, thickest wall muscle in the heart, goes pump really hard, goes behind there, through the aorta, off to the carotid arteries to the head, a branch that goes off to the arm, and then we go down here. And all along the way, of course, you're going to have branches to, the liver and the legs and all of your organs. Lots and lots of capillary beds in the body where we have exchange of materials happening. Capillary beds everywhere your body is dropping off materials and picking up materials. You have exchange there. And so that is going to be the complete circle. And you can trace it again, so it can go here, and from here, right atrium, right ventricle, lungs, left atrium, left ventricle, aorta, and around.